Hey there everyone, this is Hotform here. Today we're going to be watching some 3 versus 3 games that I played on my Deathknight, and today I'm going to be playing as Unholy spec, so we'll get to see a bit of that in action. I'm going to be playing with a Shadow Priest and a Restoration Druid, and for the most part my strategy is going to be to sit on the healer and try to wear them down as much as possible. An Unholy Deathknight doesn't really have the option to support his teammates in many ways. You have a few things that you can use to peel for them, namely slows from both your Desecration and Chains of Ice. As well, you have your Death Grip, but most of the time, your Desecration is going to be what is going to be peeling for your allies. They just have to use it successfully. And other than that, you don't really have to worry about playing defensive. Well, in fact, you shouldn't worry about playing defensive because it's really not a Death Knight's job. You're the offense in this case, and like my Shadow Priest and Druid will worry about coordinating defensive CC. I'm going to Death Grip the Priest right off the bat there, because why not? If I can get him, then it's a great start for us, just having him out in the open. I put my Anti-Magic Shell up early. I almost always put it up early. It gives me a bit of runic power generation from the talent, and also with such a short cooldown, using it to dodge crowd control effects and slows and whatnot at the start normally means that I can have a very aggressive start and put the other team under pressure. In this case, they're going to be attacking me. I've strangulated the priest already, and I'm just working on him at the moment. My druid has some heals running on me, but with all that damage coming in, I am getting fairly low at this point. Still trying to work on the priest and just make sure that they have to try to support him a little, and that's going to be what stops me from taking damage, is if they have to stop us from doing damage. So that's really the only way I can attempt to play defensive at this point. I had to sacrifice my pet there, which really hurts as an Unholy Deathknight, but my health was so low that it was really the only thing that was going to keep me alive. But sacrificing your pet is pretty much your last option. You almost never want to, because it's such a huge DPS loss. You notice I'm staying up top here. There was no way I could have jumped down, and I was able to hit him with melee swings while he was down below, and if I had jumped down I would have line of sighted my healer, but by staying up I had an incredibly good position and it allowed me to get topped off while still maintaining damage on the priest. I'm going to get deep frozen here and they're still committing damage to me, although it looks like they're switching off. You can always watch the melee DPS on their team to know who they're attacking, so in this case when I see the Death Knight stop attacking me, then I know their team as a whole is not going to be attacking me anymore, so I can just head over and start hitting the priest. I'm putting as much damage as I can into him at this point, but my Strangulate and Gargoyle are already on cooldown, so it's just going to be a slow wear down game, and I'm going to have to be patient, try to catch the priest on a fake or something, and hopefully burst him down at some point. But I'm just stacking necrotics and trying to keep as much pressure as I can going. If the priest has to call for help and his team has to worry about CCing me, for example, it's going to stop damage on my druid just because they're not attacking my druid while they're controlling me. So that's the only way I can really help my teammates stay alive. Here I get sheeped, I get dispelled out, and I'm going to continue working on the priest again. My druid's getting fairly low at this point, and my shadow priest is trying to support him as much as he can to try to keep him alive, because they do have a lot of damage going into him, whereas my job is just to keep the priest under pressure. My Strangulate's coming back up kind of soon, and so is my ghoul stun. My ghoul actually gets shackled here though. My druid's getting really low at this point, but I mean there's nothing I can do for him. I do have a death grip up, but it's generally good to save it for the person I'm attacking, because often priests can get away when they shield and remove slows, and then if I get stuck in a frost nova or something, if I don't have my death grip up, it can mean a lot of lost pressure for us. My druid does manage to get a bit of heals going on himself though, and I get stuck in some CC here, so I'm just going to have to wait for my opportunity to get back on top of the priest. My gargoyle is coming up again in about 20 seconds, I'd say, and that's normally what you look forward to finish a fight if it draws out this long. Your second gargoyle is really your opportunity for a kill, so announce it to your teammates when it's coming up, and hopefully they can try to coordinate something with you along it. I normally always use my gargoyle at the same time as I use my Unholy Frenzy. I use it on myself. It's a DPS cooldown. I do see people use it to break crowd control effects, because often you know, if you put it on your healer or something, it does damage over time, so it breaks effects that break on damage, but generally I just use it on myself because it is a very effective DPS cooldown, and there's very situational times where you would want to use it on someone to break CC on them, but really just having it macroed into your gargoyle is an effective DPS choice. Managed to take down the priest there though. As we move into the next arena here, which is going to be Ring of Valor, I wanted to talk a bit about my ghoul stun. If you looked, you might notice that it's on autocast, and a lot of people don't like this, but I personally do. Just want to mention at the start, if you're in a team where you have to worry about stun diminishings, like you're playing with a rogue, warrior, or paladin, for example, then I wouldn't suggest having it on autocast, because the diminish from a 3-second stun definitely isn't worth it if you could have a longer stun hit first, so you'd want to time it more effectively. But in this comp, there isn't really anyone else that can stun. My druid could bash or something, but I don't really have to worry about it. But Claw often prevents the ghoul stun from going off effectively because it uses up the energy in the global cooldowns. So I just leave it on autocast and I have it start my CC rotation. So I'll stun the healer, for example. I'll just let my ghoul do it, and then I'll follow it up with a strangulate after. So it just leads into the opening, and my ghoul can do it kind of whenever he gets his opportunity, and I don't really have to worry about coordinating it then. We're facing a double mage priest here, so I'm just going to commit everything I have to try to quickly drop the priest. A team like this is going to win in the long run because they have so many options for coordinated burst and peeling. But if we can kill the priest quickly enough while I still have all my stuff on him, then it's going to be pretty easy for us. And yeah, that's what we do there in the end. I pretty much always open on healers as hard as I can. I'll always start with Chains of Ice and a Death Grip probably, followed by Plague Strike. I might Pestilence if there's someone around because there's always a leftover Blood Rune, but otherwise I'll do 2 Necrotics, summon my Gargoyle, and then Empower, and it means you have 5 Necrotics because you've just stacked all those Chaos Runes. So you have a lot of damage coming out right at the start there if you open with that, and you'll also have your Gargoyle coming out, you'll have your Ghoul Stun and your Strangulate, so you have quite a bit of opening pressure that will taper off a lot after, but at the start I always like to check to see how confident a healer is, because very often you can do what we just did there and catch someone off guard, especially if your partner is able to coordinate CC with you. For example, I always like to lead with my Ghoul Stun and then follow with a Strangulate. Often they'll Trinket the Strangulate, but that's kind of my CC rotation, and then if my Shadow Priest follows it up with his Silence and then a Horrified, that's an exceptionally long lockdown for a healer, and you can often kill them just right off the bat. As we come into the next arena here, it's going to be a Priest, a Mage, and a Feral Druid, so I'm going to be going for the Priest again. I get pounced, but it looks like they're switching off me, heading over to my Shadow Priest, and I'm just trying to get the Priest here. I don't really worry that my Shadow Priest can't hit him, although it's nice to have the Shadow Priest damage on the Priest. There's going to be often times where the healer is just going to walk away from your teammate, and you're not going to get any support, but that doesn't mean you should stop attacking the target. An Unholy Deathknight on a healer, it pretty much occupies the healer's entire time. There's not a lot they can do other than just take care of themselves when you're attacking them. So if my Shadow Priest can't hit my target, then he's just going to hit something else, and the constant pressure on other people is going to mean that their healer is under too much stress, and often it's going to lead to a kill for us. You can see in this case he's pretty much only healing himself, although he is out in the open, so my Shadow Priest is going to be putting damage into him too. The Druid switches to me here, and that means that most of their damage is switching to me, so I have to watch my line of sight and make sure that I'm not going to be just walking out of the way of my healer, because if I do, that can end up in a quick death for me, and I don't want to see that happen. The Priest is walking out here, so that means he's trying to fear my Druid. Whenever you see the enemy priest walking towards your healer, let them know, because that means he's trying to fear them. And with you on top of the priest, there's really no way that they should ever successfully accomplish that goal, as long as you're paying attention and letting your healer know that, hey, he's coming towards you, make sure you back up so you don't get feared. My ghoul stuns the priest here, and he's getting pretty low. He's already used most of his cooldowns at this point, and I find priests generally just get worn down after they use their pain suppression and desperate prayer, unless they have excellent peels from their teammates. I do get Dragon's Breath there, and the priest manages to top himself, so that's a perfect example of a good peel from his teammate. It looks like the Feral Druid's thinking about switching back onto me as well with that Feral charge there, but I'm not really too concerned about that. I have full health at this point, and they've spent so much time trying to support their priest that you can notice no one on our team is really taking much damage. And this is exactly what you want to do as a Deathknight, and this is how being aggressive is the same as playing defensive, because by putting out so much pressure on the priest at those times, he really had to call for help, and by calling for help it meant my healer had to do nothing because they were not doing damage at all. In the end, I do manage to just wear down the priest. So that's pretty effective. All you have to do is make sure that you're the team being aggressive. As long as you can force them to play defensive, generally you're going to come out on top. And as a Deathknight, that's all you're really trying to do, is make sure that you're putting out enough pressure that the enemy healer can't survive. And if your teammate can put out damage on something else at the same time, then that's a perfectly good choice as well. As we move into the next arena here, back to what I was talking about with the ghoul stun. There are going to be times where, if you have it on autocast, you will see opportunities that you'll go, dang, I wish I had my ghoul stun still up so I could have used it now. But there will never be a time where your ghoul stuns and you will say, oh, I wish he did not stun. A stun, when you don't have to worry about diminishes, is pretty much always valuable. So just having him use it as often as it comes up, you'll pretty much always find times where you go, oh yeah, that was really effective stun. I'm glad my ghoul did that then. And it's just making it so you don't have to think about something that you want to do as often as you can anyways. As we come out here, it's going to be a Fire Mage, Feral Druid Priest. I think it's the same team as last time again. So I'm going to be going on the Priest again. Looks like they're starting on me hard. Or the Druid was anyways. And my Druid can CC a Feral Druid really exceptionally, so generally I don't try to spread dots against a team like this. Also, Priest Prayer Mending tends to bounce quite a bit, so if we're all in close quarters, it's tempting to spread dots because I'll do more damage, but the Priest will also heal himself a lot better. As well, he'll top his teammates with the prayer mending, so it's not that effective to spread dots. I wouldn't say you shouldn't do it, but it's just something you should think about, that it's not really going to gain you any ground if you do pestilence your dots off when everybody's grouped up like this, when it's a priest healing. If it's any other healer though, then definitely you want a pestilence in a situation like this. I'm just committing everything I can to the priest here. He's standing in a good position to force my healer to come in. You notice that pull, the way he's down a little bit on the ramp means that my healer really has to come over very close to be able to heal me, because I'm line of sighting anytime I walk down to hit the priest when he was back there. So it forces my healer to come in, and it was a good position on the priest's choice, because that means he can land a fear more easily. They're still committing to me hard at this point, and I'm just working on the priest, but he's already used all his cooldowns, so if he doesn't escape, if he stays around at this point, he's pretty much going to die. If a priest continuously takes damage from you, you're going to kill him. His teammates have to make sure that I stop attacking him at some point, otherwise he'll die every time, and there he does go down in the end. So although his positioning was good at the start by forcing us to come in, once his defensive cooldowns were gone, probably jumping off the bridge or something while asking for some slows or something on me would have been very effective to keep him alive, but because he stood in the same area, then his death was pretty inevitable. As we move into the next arena here, it's going to be a priest, ret paladin, and a death knight. So they do have some support that they can give the priest. The paladin has sacrifice, blessing, protection, and heals, and my job is just to try to get those out of him. And although you know that they're coming, there's not a lot you can do about them, so you're just going to have to deal with it. When he gets bopped, you just say, oh, he's bopped. Maybe your priest can get a massive spell or something, but for the most part, you're just going to have to wait. Do remember, though, that you can kick. Mind Freeze goes over top of Blessing and Protection, so that works nicely. You notice there the priest used his immune to interrupts, but I still managed to kick his heal. If you watch the buff from the immune to interrupts, it often wears out before they finish casting what they want to, but the strength bar, the one that says you can't kick them, will remain there. So if you watch the buff, you can know that you can still kick them, even though the casting bar says otherwise at some points, and it can be really useful. That kick there definitely put the priest under too much pressure, although he didn't get a blessing of protection from his paladin, which might have kept him alive in the end. But we take him down quickly, and now we just have to work on killing these guys at the same time. It looks like the paladin still had some of his DPS cooldowns up, which, see, this is why I exactly advocate using all your stuff early and just getting as much pressure as you can at the start. The paladin didn't even get to start doing his damage to my healer really before their healer was already dead, just because I committed everything as fast as I could, and because of that we won the battle. So just being in a rush is often very helpful, and getting the battle started as quickly as you can often give you a huge advantage over the enemy team. Coming into the next arena here, we're going to be on Ring of Valor, and we'll have to wait for the gates to open to see what we'll be facing, but it should be an interesting match. It looks like a priest at the start here, and he's going to be with a rogue and a mage. So again, we're going to be going on a priest. Priest died pretty quickly, and they have to peel, so that's kind of my goal, is just forcing them to peel. They're going to be starting on my shadow priest, so I don't even have to worry at this point. I'm just looking to do as much offensive damage as I can. I have to grip him there because he was a few yards out of range, and I don't think I was going to get a dispel on that Frost Nova, and I didn't in the end, so it was an effective grip. But don't worry, if you have to grip someone a few yards, if the difference is you not hitting them or hitting them, then it's always effective. In this case, I have my Gargoyle out. I already used my Stun and Strangulate, and I'm just doing as much damage to the priest as I can. My Shadow Priest is under a fair amount of pressure, but there's not a lot I can do to support him. Maybe a kick on the mage or something could be helpful, but in reality, I'm just going to be focusing on the priest and trying to do the offensive part for my team while my druid and priest try to live. I'm working on the priest right now, but he's already used his Desperate Prayer, I believe, and he's getting pretty low at this point, so they have to start thinking about CCing me. I haven't gotten sheeped or anything yet, so I would say that's failure on their part of the mage, although I do get Dragon's Breath here, and you can see the priest is getting a few seconds to try to top himself. He had just used Pain Suppression there. I get Impact Stun again, but he's so low at this point that it's looking pretty grim for him. And you can see all my team is at full health, and it's tough for them to justify doing anything other than trying to save their priest when he's that low, so he does go down in the end. And once your team gets topped up and their team isn't, you've pretty much won the battle, because as long as you can continue to push that advantage that you have, it's very tough for them to come back, especially on an arena like this where there's really no way to get away. If you can't escape, then there's no point in not just standing there and fighting them, especially on a map where, you know, the poles disappear or something. There's clearly no way he can line of sight my Shadow Priest or anything. So rather than running around in circles like the priest did, I think he would have been much better off to just stand there, hard cast some things. So we're going to be coming into the next rain here, again on Ring of Valor, and it looks like I'm lagging a bit at the start here, so hopefully that doesn't haunt me throughout the battle. But I do want to mention that I've played with lag before, and that's definitely taught me an important lesson about being a melee DPS, and that if you can judge where your opponent's going to go before he goes there, if you can say to yourself, oh, I know the priest is going to try to line of sight my team, so he's going to go behind the pole, then standing in front of them very often is crucial to you maintaining your damage. If you're standing in front of the direction where your enemy wants to go, those things like a short Frost Nova or stun aren't going to make you lose the crucial distance that you need because you're already in the right place. So being able to know what your opponent is doing means that you can increase your damage by a lot because you don't lose those few yards every time you get CC'd for a short period. In this case, the priest is going to be out in the center. We're playing against a Frost Deathknight and a Fire Mage, which is a team with a lot of area of effect, cleave effects, so you definitely want to spread out against a team like this, otherwise their damage is going to be overwhelming. Just between the Living Bombs and the Howling Blast. So in this case, we're spreading out a bit. I'm working on the Priest, obviously, because that's our strategy for the day, is to train the healers down. Training the healers is pretty much always an effective choice, so that's why I like to do it in almost any game. Although we face Priests mostly in these clips today, I do it against any healer. Really, you can just train them all, and it always has the same effect. It's slightly different strategies maybe, but otherwise it's not a big deal. My anti-magic shell comes up at nice time here, since I was about to die. But in this case, you know, this is exactly why I don't mind using my anti-magic shell early. If the other team decides to switch to me at any point, then I'm just going to have to wait a few seconds, tell my healer, you know, 20 seconds till anti-magic shell's up, and then I'll be able to survive. And that's really all you need to do. So since it's such a short cooldown, using it to avoid those early CCs, even if they switch to you, you're not at a huge risk. The Deathknight has been death gripping me, and I would say that that's not very effective for him at all. Although he clearly wants to peel because his priest is under a lot of pressure, death gripping me doesn't really do much because I'm just saving my death grip. So every time he death grips me, I just death grip the priest. And that means that his death grip was not only useless in terms of peeling for his priest, but it means that I can always death grip the priest whenever he wants. And that's why I always save my death grip, because, well, save it for the target that I want to attack. If I'm using it for a peel and then the target I want to attack gets away, I'm pretty much screwed. There's not a lot I can do. But if I just save it and anytime the target I want to kill gets away, then I'm always going to be in a good position. And in this case, you could see the Death Knight using his death grip to peel was not effective at all, and it didn't gain his priest any ground. It was just a waste of a cooldown. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video for today. That's about all there is, and we'll see you next time.